This is part 2 of my conversation with Roger Hanney. He came over to my place in April, just before I entered Sydney's Backyard Ultra, which was the longest run I've ever done in my life and the furthest I've ever run. We talk about the tips, we talk about the difficulties, we talk about the challenges of running with Type 1 over incredible distances, but we also talk about what it's like to run your first 5-kilometre run. Hopefully you'll find something really inspiring that encourages you to get out and exercise. Roger's done some amazing things and we talk about those. And if you listen to the very end, you'll hear how some of his tips helped me in Sydney's Backyard Ultra. Enjoy this episode, and if you'd like to find out more about being fitter for having it, please check out fitterforhavingit.com. All right, so Roger, we're going to talk running now. And I've got a head torch here, which is the head torch I'll be wearing on Saturday. I'm doing a race with no finish line. And I want to get some tips from you on supreme distances where you've... I've got the head torch switched on there. I'll put that down so I won't touch it. I want to talk to you about some of these supreme distances because I've only ever gone into races before where there's been a defined finish point. So I know how far I've got to go and I've been able to train for that. And I've been training for a race with no finish line. So it's going to be me that stops or I don't make a cut off and I'm out. And I've done lots of long runs before, what I thought was lots, but then we were just talking about your track record and the different runs that you've done, but just give us a taste of how many different ultra marathons you've done.
We were talking about this and I was actually trying to work it out. I've only ever done one time race. I did a 12-hour.
Yep.
I did a 3-hour, which wasn't ultra. I did a 12-hour. I've done, I think, at least 10 100Ks. I think I've done at least 600 milers. I've done
600 milers.
Yeah. I've done Coast to Cosy, so it's 150 miler 5 times, and I've done Tour de Gent twice. It's funny because you do lose a little bit of
perspective. Yeah,
and then I'll hopefully snag a 50k entry for Ultra Trail Australia this year because we usually, I mean, that's a great race to always be part of. But the distance stuff, you can always make stupider. Yeah. Like you can always make it sillier. Yeah. We were talking, I must have done more than 10 100Ks, I think, because I did one thing where I did October, like big October, and across October and September over 5 weekends, I did 3 100Ks and a 100 miler. And the 100 miler was really satisfying because it was with all of that beating in my legs from the previous month and 174Ks for the miler. And it got up to about close to 40 degrees really quickly on the Saturday morning. And so Great North Walk, and it had a 75% DNF rate. Yeah. So actually, you have the things where you certainly start out chasing times and you've got a 5k PB and a marathon PB and a goal time and all that sort of thing. And then you do the distance stuff, and then you start, in my case, you look for what's the steeper distance stuff, like Hard Rock or Ultra Trail Andorra. And then you just get to this point of, and I did a 250k. I ran across Japan. I forgot that. Sorry. Sakuramichi. It was beautiful. But you start to work out ways to put things together. I think Stephen Redfern, Shaggy, he's a Sydney runner who they have a getaway Airbnb up in the Blue Mountains, and he lives near us in sort of Sutherland. So he'll routinely, if you look at his Strava on the weekend, he routinely will run from one house to the other, which is, I think, about 80k. Yeah. You know, he's obviously done Barkley, which is the craziest of the crazy. It's
crazy, Roger. Yeah. Like it can be really intimidating to people, right? So we both live with Type 1, and when they see the track record of runs that you've done with Type 1, and they're thinking about doing a 5k themselves, or they might be going in for their first half marathon, to see that you and I have done some quite long runs, very long runs, 2-3 day sort of stuff. This is a lot of time that we're spending on our feet. That can be quite intimidating. And I'm interested in what you might have learned from doing those long runs or from exercising with Type 1 that you might be able to share with someone like that who's going, how am I going to run park run at the weekend, or how am I going to do my first half marathon? Are there things that you would suggest to people that are thinking about doing longer runs? What would you tell them?
Do it. I mean, that's sort of facile, but you've got to commit. And if you just sign up for something and go and see how good or how bad it can be, that's more than you had done yesterday.
Yeah. That's a great piece of first advice. The bit of advice you gave me in the Big Red Run when I was at a breaking point, I'd done something extraordinary with my insulin that wasn't particularly good, and I felt like my race was over and I couldn't go on. You said another bit of advice to me that's lived with me for a long time, and that's trust the science. Like, the science of diabetes isn't that complicated. There's lots of things that can influence it. But if you trust the science, I think that can help you a bit. And so I love what you're saying there about, almost do it, learn from it, do it again, and you'll be a little bit better at it. Do it again, and you'll be even more better at it. And pushing that boundary to see how far you can go is something that I've maybe inherited from you. I'm not sure, but I feel like I'm pushing myself a bit further. This race to run as far as I can. Like, I'm not sure how far I'll go, but I'm giving it a go, and I'll learn from that. So anything else that you think novices or people that are just coming to running now with type 1 might benefit from?
I like the idea with anything of essentially knowing where the walls are and what the floor and the ceiling are. So the walls are going to keep everything up, and that's essentially, do you have 2 feet? Have you done any training? Do you know where the start is and the finish is? And then the floor and the ceiling is really, the floor is making sure that you've got your safety built in and you know what it is. So it may be, if everything goes really badly, even if I'm being violently ill, I can still walk and I can still eat. For type 1, those things are crucial. So as long as you can keep moving forward and getting some carbs in, everything's going to be okay at the end of the day. You can also turn your insulin off. There's all these other things you can do. And then the ceiling is really, well, what do you want to achieve here? So are you chasing a 5K time? Are you wanting to beat a mate? Are you just wanting to do it without feeling completely awful for the rest of the day? So I think as long as you know what those things are, because it's easy to get into what's effectively a panic about anything. So if the thoughts start swirling and you start ideating horrible outcomes and the worst that can happen and all the terrible things that people have told you about your condition, and you just accept that as truth, then you aren't actually building your house. Whereas if you build your house and you say, well, I've got friends a phone call away, I know my car's there, I can see where the finish is, there's people around me, I've got this in my pocket, I know that I can grab more at the aid station, or there's a milk bar there. Like, all those little things, and then let yourself have some goals on top of that. And then I think the crucial thing with running as a way of life is, are you someone who benefits from running with a group? Are you someone who really just needs or wants to run on your own? Do those runs on your own, and I speak from my own experience, I really find those runs on your own great for processing life and absorbing a huge chunk of outdoor good energy. Sounding like a hippie, sorry. But then it's a matter of, well, think about the things that you do get from running with a group. You get really good social interaction, you get really good conversation, you actually forget about how much a run might suck.
I've found exactly the same, Roger. Like, I love the solitude of running. And even though you're out there with other competitors and they become a real tribe and you support each other, it's a team sport, you run around with each other and you support each other. I find that really good, but I love that solitude. I love working out whether I can do the next bit myself. And I drive a lot from that as well. And I think that's really good advice. Make it something that you want to do. If you're doing your first 5K, you want to do it on your own, do it on your own. If you want to do it with someone else, do it with someone else. The Big Red Run, I was doing it with Tom. You might remember Tom. he was my safety net for that one. I'd never done anything like that before, and I was launching straight into a 250 kilometre run over 6 days. I took Tom with me. He was part of my safety net, and then I got the confidence to then go out and do some of these runs on my own by learning from training, testing things, testing foods, testing insulin strategies with my medical team. And it's amazing what you find possible. And I think that's what's driving me, is to just push the boundary a little bit further. Like, I'm in my 50s now, and I'm going to try and run for as long as I can, and maybe even get close to 100 miles. I certainly think I can do 100k, but in this race with no finish line, like, how far could I go? You could, quite interesting.
I mean, you could certainly, you'll have a much better chance of doing 100 miles if you tell yourself you want to do 200k.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And having done some of these runs before, the way that I'm approaching this is to not think about the laps that we do. So each lap's about 7 kilometres. Not to count each one, but to chunk them up into 5s. And when I've started one group of 5, do the next group of 5 and the next group of 5. So I think, you know, we spoke about this before. The legs are important. Having the physical strength, understanding the way diabetes is going to affect us is important. But having the grey matter, the bit up here, switched on to how are you going to cope at those breaking points, is something that's really interesting. And I think we might explore that, because people will find this really interesting, because you've been in some incredible places, some very isolated places, where you've hit that wall and you thought, actually, it's time to exit. And maybe once you've kind of not got to the end of a race, but most of the time you get through that point. What gets you through those breaking points?
Every single really hard thing that you do makes the next really hard thing a lot easier. Yep. So that first hard thing that you do, so the first time that you do a marathon, it's this incredibly tough barrier that you know you're going to come up against. And then once you do that and you don't die, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I could do 50k or 50 mile or whatever it is. I've really been lucky to have the hard experiences that I've had in ultra running. Yep. When I think about it, that experience we had of doing the Grand Slam and doing all the Racing the Planet stuff with Greg and the Born to Run Foundation, that set me up for a running career of really not being afraid of anything. Yep. Because when we did our first race, it was Atacama, which is this incredibly beautiful alien desert in Chile. Yep. And on maybe the second or third day, you're running across these plains that used to be under ocean. So all the salt has dried really slowly to form large crystals. It sounds like you're running across broken glass or frozen broccoli or something. Yeah. And when you go through the surface, there's this thick black mud. Like, it is absolutely another planet. Yeah. And in the middle of all that, in 35-ish degrees, I had a crazy hypo because I'd had sugars or gels on my fingers when I took my sugars. So I thought my sugars were really high. So I took insulin, and then I realized that my sugars had probably been normal, and I was absolutely bonking. And I'm in a team situation where we've all got to get through. Yeah. And probably, you know, before being in that experience and before having that additional piece of other people depending on me, I might have just gone, oh, this is too hard. Whereas what I had to do was just suck it up and do all the things you do to manage that moment. Yep. And then all of a sudden, after you've done that, and after you've done the Gobi Desert, and after you've been in the Sahara in 46 degrees, and you've been to Antarctica almost immediately after that, and you've done coast to Cozy after getting back to the airport from Antarctica. Everything else seemed pretty sane and normal. And I find that life is actually like that because of type 1. So we have experiences with type 1. I mean, we've all had that devastating hypo where you cannot speak, you cannot move. The only thing that lets you get through it is a sheer act of will. Yeah. I find when I'm in a commercial situation where people are in a bit of a tizzy and panicking as though whatever's in front of them is the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's really easy to be calm and methodical and solution oriented.
Yep.
And we just have a different baseline.
I think so. And I think those strengths that we build, having to respond, having to deal with things that change in your daily basis, they do kind of mirror these runs. These runs go up and down, they change. There are things that come in from left field that you'd never expected. And so I very much draw on what I've learned through running to help me with the diabetes in my regular life, where I've left home and my pump fails immediately, or my CGM gets knocked off and I can't find my blood testing monitor. Like, you have to adapt to those things, and you build strength in the diabetes that helps you in the runs, and you build strength in the runs that helps you with the diabetes. And knowledge, knowledge is power as well. There's a moment and you write about this stuff so well, Roger. Like, I'm really impressed, and I love getting onto your blogs and having a look at those. Run, Eat, Sleep, Run. That's the blog. And if you find it, you'll find some really interesting stories from Roger about his race moments and how the races go for anyone running, whether they've got an illness or not, or a condition or not. But there's one moment when you were doing UTMB. This is the ultra marathon that runs around the base of Mount Everest.
Feels like Mount Everest.
Not Mount Everest, Mont Blanc. Runs around the base of Mont Blanc. It's incredible. 250 miles.
No, it's the 10,000 meters that gets you.
It's the climb that's the.
Yeah, it's a big.
So it's incredible, but there's a moment in that where, when you're reading the blog, you think you're going to stop. You're going to pull out. You're about halfway point, I think.
Yeah.
And you write about that moment of coming through that breaking point and then going on and, spoiler alert, finishing the race. It's quite incredible. But what was it that really brought you through that moment? What are you drawing on at those points where, in this case, the running, but maybe for others it might be the diabetes, is breaking you and you feel like you can't go on? What got you through that point?
Yeah, I had a real moment. I mean, you're completely smashed by the middle of that race.
Yep.
Even if you're a well-conditioned athlete, you're pretty smashed by the middle of that race. Yeah. And what really puts pressure on you is cut-off times. You know, and if you're a decent runner, you won't know what a cut-off time is. But if you're anywhere near the back of the pack for whatever reason, you have this clock chasing you.
The sweep literally coming around, running with the time.
Tailing Charlie's always there. So I had, after running for, I think, about 20-ish hours, I had less than 15 minutes to get out of this aid station that I'd just arrived at.
And in that aid station, what you write about is there's other people there in the same boat, and they're taking their shoes off. They're giving up. They're walking away. Yeah. Right? And you kept going. So that's the bit that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, I actually looked at those people and how comfortable they were getting with their situation, and I honestly used anger as fuel. I felt a bit angry at the idea, and somebody, one of the helpers there, said to me, make them drag you off course. So you might have this thing where you feel like giving up, but the beauty part of ultra is, even if you can't get it done, someone's going to come and tell you and drag you off the course. So rather than wondering whether I was or wasn't going to quit, it was just a matter of, well, they've got to come and drag me off the course. And that just changed the mindset. And I think that that's a really good way to approach every ultra. I was saying, I've got a friend who's done epic stuff, as in he's done multiple Iditarods, which is 1,600 kilometers across Alaska in the middle of winter on foot. And his blog is Too Dumb to Quit. Because he'll be halfway between two aid stations and thinking, I'm definitely pulling out at the next one. And then he'll be through the next aid station before he remembers that he forgot to pull out. So however you shape that for yourself, all you have to do is keep going. And if you aren't going fast enough, someone will come and drag you off.
I think I've used that a lot in my runs as well. Is the intrinsic, the internal motivation to run is a big part of what I'm doing. I'm trying to prove to myself before anyone else that I can do this. I can push my boundaries a bit further. But I'm also taking people with me. Like when you're running these events, they're going for 30, 40 hours. There's a long time that you're out there. What are you thinking about? Who are you thinking about? What's keeping you going? Are you processing the diabetes all the time, or are you thinking about your pace? Are you thinking about the next checkpoint? How do you switch between that angry man who wants to just keep going and get to the finish line, the stubbornness, and someone that's thinking about race tactics or other people or other things, external motivation?
Certainly your people, thinking about things that make you feel good, thinking about things that you love, thinking about things that make you happy, and that's got to be your fam.
Yep.
Thinking about people who've put energy and effort and time into you, thinking about those people who you care about, or those people who are doing it tougher than you are, no matter how tough you think you're doing it for a second. And then also just that really nice Zen state where you are hyper-focused on the only thing you can do, which is taking the next step, which might, again, sound like a little bit of a trope, but it's real, and when you're that empty and fatigued and it's just next step, can you do the next step?
I've been playing that in my head a bit, actually, while I've been training for Sydney's Backyard Ultra, because there is no finish line. There's no point that I cross and finish. And I've been playing that a bit in my head about, well, how do I work out where the finish line is? How do I work out when I've done enough? And I've got a few tactics. Like I've got a list of people and things that motivate me, that I'll be fortunate enough every hour to get back to a checkpoint where I can see and look at the things that are going to motivate me. And I've grouped them to help drive me around that course as well. So I'm quite excited about it. Like I don't know where my finish line is going to be. I've run 50Ks, I've run 100Ks, I've run 80K races. I've never gone beyond 100Ks. I'm quite excited about pushing my boundary and seeing what I can learn from that. So I think wanting to get to at least 100K is really driving me. But then trying to get to a miler, I've kind of built this finish line in my head about trying to get to 100 miles. And I'm not sure if that's possible. Like when I finished the 100K, I was shattered, but that was quite a hilly, mountainous 100K that I did. So I'm thinking that took me 19 hours. I wonder how far I could run in 19 hours. So I'm approaching it with all of these different finish points in mind. But yeah, that anger, I think, and that kind of just keep going, just keep learning. And the regret about not trying one more lap is going to be playing on me. So have you been through moments like that as well? Or is there anything that you could give me to sort of say, well, yes, Duncan, just go and do another lap?
Yeah, definitely. I think putting people who've been through tougher stuff than you front of mind always really helps. Yep. And, so for me, my wife is huge inspiration for me.
Haley,
So Haley did a 50-mile run in the mountains in New Zealand less than 12 months after her second cesarean.
Incredible
with Lionel, right?
That's so amazing.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that to me, I would take running 300Ks in really gnarly mountains over a cesarean any day. You know what I mean? So
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
look to others. Yeah.
Set yourself up by thinking, however, you can make what you're going through as big a mountain of pain as you want, or you can make it as trivial as you want. I think you almost need to tag your emotions and thoughts if they're getting away from you.
Yep.
So are you putting yourself into that negative spiral you were talking about, or are you controlling your consciousness? In Buddhism, they talk about storehouse consciousness. And if you picture green shoots, you choose which ones you water and which ones you starve.
Yep.
So if you have green shoots of depression or negativity and you feed those by feeding them, really, like if you think, oh yeah, my foot is sore. Oh yeah, I am tired. Oh yeah, I haven't slept in a while. Then that green shoot will grow, that storehouse consciousness. Whereas if you starve it and you instead focus on, I'm so lucky to be able to do this. I'm so lucky I can keep going for 70 hours if I want to.
I think that's the fitter for having it mindset that I've developed. Like, I've got diabetes and I could look at it, and we spoke about that in part one. You can look at it as negative and spiral down and wrap everything you do around trying to manage your diabetes, or you can say, actually, it's building strengths in me, spiral up. And I think looking at that in the run in a really positive way, as you've suggested, what is it about this run that's hurting me at the moment? Okay, let's distract that. What is it that I'm really enjoying about this run? What am I going to learn from this? And spiral up is a really good way of looking at it. What about practical things? Like, I'll have a phone with me, calling people, or eating stuff, or changing clothes, or what's got you through those epic distances before?
Music, like vitamin M. Yeah, 100%. So set yourself up for some success by not putting music on until you feel like it'll help you.
Yeah.
Same with caffeine, and really pace your caffeine. So in the daytime, I might try to keep caffeine sort of 6 hours apart, and then at night when you go to 2 hours apart, it'll really kick in more. Don't take it till late. Like, make yourself go till 11 p.m. Obviously, don't fixate on feeling bad physically, because you're going to feel bad physically. So if you're surprised by that, then it'll become a bigger thing. Avoid the avoidable stuff. So obviously, lubing when and where you need to, and not neglecting that, because that'll all add up. And then I think staying away, frankly, from negative people, which might sound obvious, but people reinforce the people around them. You know, that idea that the best of you is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you let yourself run in a little group of people where they're letting themselves get down, or they're talking about how tired they feel, or they're mentioning how sore they are, or how much further it is, or they don't know if they can keep going, etc., that will infect you. Like, that's going to osmotically impact you. So I think all of those sorts of things, they're bigger than 1%ers. They're pretty much 10%ers.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think if you set yourself up for success with the people around you and the way that you're thinking, and trying to honestly build a muscle that feels joy about the idea of starting again. So almost thinking about how uncomfortable you are sitting down and how much you want to get moving again, and looking forward to the next start. And as we were saying with, say, nutrition, don't limit yourself to the sit down bit for getting it in. Get it in on the run. It'll be really interesting. I mean, I've never done one of the no finish lines. Like, I'm intrigued by what you find out to get through it. Well,
we'll be catching up soon after to find out about exactly how it goes. I mean, I've learned a lot from the other runs, so I know, having a continual, and this is the diabetes stuff now, so having a continual sort of flow of glucose coming into my body and carbs coming into my body through the tailwind powders is going to be something that I rely on. I've done that in the past. It's worked. Having a pocket full of snakes for those moments when the blood glucose is dropping low, I've got that. And I've got the luxury in this race of having a camp, so I can get back to it with any food I want. Any food that I choose can be waiting at that camp for me. And I've picked comfort food that I like eating, food that I've trained with before, so I know what it does to my gut. And I think what I'll take from the conversation we've just had again is not over-relying on the Coke, saving it for the moment that you really need it. I think that's a really good bit of sage advice that I'll be carrying forward. When you're in your races, do you draw a lot on what you've done in previous races before? Or do you, like me, I mean, I just count sometimes. I just count the footsteps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it keeps me going. But how do you exercise that grey matter, and do you draw on those previous things that you've done or other experiences?
Yeah, I definitely draw on the experiences, because you think about the things you've survived.
Yeah.
So first time I did Tour de Jean, going into the first night, I was up a mountain at 3,000-ish meters in a blizzard, probably about -12, having a hypo, couldn't, like the glucose meter was too cold to work.
Yeah.
There was snow on the back of the guy in front of me. My fingers wouldn't work enough to actually get anything out of my bag.
Yeah.
And all I was doing was stuffing a Snickers into my face and moving as fast as I could, because I knew that I had to keep moving or I'd get too cold, and I had to get down as quickly as possible or I was going to get hectic hypothermia. And I got the feeling back in my fingertips 5 months after that race.
Yep.
I literally had 3 fingers that I didn't have the feeling in the tips.
And all good now? Like they recovered?
Yeah. So even when you're feeling, oh, this is a bit tough, or this is a bit cold, or this is a bit sore, or this is a bit hurty, if you've got that little catalogue of some of the tougher stuff that you've done, and again, tougher stuff that other people have done.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, and before I went to the Big Red Run, which is where we met for the first time, I'd been looking at Arctic explorers and Antarctic explorers and what they ate, right? And what they're doing hundreds of years ago or 150 years ago. And they're eating seal fat. They've got lumps of butter that they're eating. They haven't got gels. They haven't got tailwind. They haven't got the different powders and gels and foods that we've got to. But they're doing something extraordinary. And I think this is where what you spoke about before, the grey matter is the most important muscle to exercise. If you've got your body physically fit enough to get to the start line, then that's the bit that's going to keep you going. It's not going to always be the leg muscles. I also looked at, World War I and World War II stories about people that are stranded behind enemy lines and what they do to get out of it. And you realise that humans can do a huge amount. They can do some incredible things. That's really good, Roger. Is there anything else that you would want to talk about, like for people out there that are thinking about doing their first ultra, or whether they've got type 1 or not, or people that are out there thinking about doing their first 5K? Is there anything else apart from just do it and learn about your body, use the goal setting piece as part of your motivation? Is there anything else you'd give them?
Yeah, I would say what you and I have been doing for the last hour is not what we were built to do.
Yeah.
All of the things in your body that help your brain function well and help your mood be where it feels good, and get you stronger and get you more able to support everyone around you and do everything in your life. It comes from doing hard things, and it comes from being physical, and it comes from sweating, and it comes from getting up early when you'd rather sleep in, and we've got a couple of really good friends down in Tassie who, one of them put it beautifully, that basically seeking comfort is waiting to die. It's more or less, the more comfortable you make yourself, the more rapidly you will age. So going out and doing these things that are uncomfortable or new or challenging is actually putting way more life in your life and way more joy in your life.
I think I find that too. Like everyday life now, something will happen and it'll feel a bit down. And I go back to those moments in races that have been exhilarating. Like there's something that happens in these runs where you're pushing your body to the end of its limits. Like there's something that just happens that I cling to. They're lifelong memories. The people that you meet there are often lifelong friendships and relationships as well. So that's really, really good. Now, talking of comfort, I want to talk a little bit about running across the Grand Canyon and hard rock.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit that in one of your blogs where you talk about someone saying that the soul of the trainers of people that are wearing is melting.
Yeah.
Like this is an uncomfortable race. You go back and you put yourself in these environments. Like, tell me a bit about what that was like running through hard rock. Yeah.
So, we were booked in for hard rock, and this would have been second hard rock, and it was like the year after the first, and you've got you've got like a 0.02% chance of getting into hard rock. And I got in the first time that I entered, which was amazing. That was an epic race. Incredible people. Silverton is an incredible little town. Colorado's, the San Juan Mountains is epic. The second time that we went over, the race had actually been cancelled because of snow.
Right.
So the thinking was, well, let's go and run across the Grand Canyon instead, in the next sort of state over in Arizona. And coincidentally, hard rock happens middle of July or early July, right. Early July, which is peak summer. So I went with a couple of friends and did rim to rim to rim. So we went across the Grand Canyon and back on essentially the hottest day of summer. And it was kind of crazy.
There's a sign. Yeah. There's a sign there that you've got on your blog.
It's the best sign.
And it's a guy. Well, you tell everyone what the sign is, but it's incredible when you look online and see this. It's just this is a sign in a public place.
So essentially, you've got a river running through the Grand Canyon. You've kind of got a little bit of flat bit at the bottom, and then you've got really steep climbs either side. And seeing this sign on the way out after I think we'd done 60 Ks already. It's a guy on all fours with no shirt on, vomiting with hectic sunburn all over his body. And it's basically advertising, this is what will happen to you in the Grand Canyon if you haven't ticked all the boxes. So at that point, I wasn't even sure how I was getting out of the canyon, because you just see this wall that goes the whole way up. But yeah, we got a warning from the ranger as we were coming back out that people's shoes had been melting on Kaibab, which is the climb I think that was the climb that we did coming out. Because it's that hot that there's bits where sand looks like it's turned to glass.
Yeah. Do you sort of enjoy the discomfort?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's strange to tell people that, but so do I. Like, I quite enjoy it and I feel a bit weird. But I think other people do. Like, I think people like getting to that stage of, can I handle this? Which is really quite interesting.
Well, how alive are you?
Yeah.
Like, how alive are you when that's happening?
Yeah.
There's no autopilot.
Yep.
I mean, there's something.
Yeah.
But it's not disconnection from your context.
No. It makes you real for sure. And it makes you appreciate the moment. We spoke a bit about that in the earlier part as well, where you've just got to be in the moment, like live the moment and feel what's around you. And in those times when diabetes is getting quite hard, you just know that that's a momentary piece. I've lived with diabetes now for 40 years and I've been through ups and downs, and you'll get over them all eventually. And there are little tips and tricks that everyone will learn along the way. You've lived with it for nearly 20 years yourself now as well, and those tips do come out, and I think you draw on those in the races as much as you draw on the races in the moments when things are down. So some really interesting stuff there. If you have to pick, well, I'm going to ask you two questions, so I'll give you a bit of warning. One of them's pick what your most uncomfortable moment in a race has been, and also, can you pick a best race? And then, we'll get on to the second question in time. But what's the most uncomfortable that you think you've been? And what's the greatest moment? Like, what's your greatest achievement in race?
I reckon I'll go the second question first because it's easier to answer. Hard rock, doing hard rock was a profound experience for me because there was so much love that I had for that race from following it. It's such a storied race, and I had the experience of being stranded at 14,000-ish feet in 3 lightning storms smashing into each other.
And again, the photos on the website are incredible. This lightning storm coming through, incredible.
Yeah. And I'd been able to commit to the training so hard that I didn't actually start to feel any discomfort in my legs till about 110k, and I had a coast to Cosi that was kind of like that too, because I'd been going down and training like 100-ish Ks every weekend for ages on the actual course.
Yep.
So it's like those two races, they stick in the memory because the work that I'd done set me up to have a great time for all the right reasons on the course, no matter what happened.
Yep.
And then I would say that the toughest experiences, certainly Ultra Trail Andorra for its own, unique reasons, which I wrote about those. And then that UTMB piece of, I made it through the last checkpoint with 2 minutes to go, and my friends were crying in a street somewhere because they'd been following my dot and thought that I'd been timed out, which was such a beautiful thing to come home to when they're sharing this with you, and you have this feeling of people caring that much is a wild thing.
Almost seeing you come across the finish line. It must have been so powerful for them as well.
Yeah. So, there has been so many moments. Gobi, actually, feeling like I was going to die in the Gobi Desert was up there too.
I've been a bit rude because I've realised how selfish and unfair that question is. So I think if you ask me the same question, it's impossible. There are moments that you take out of all of the races that I've done. I can pick a moment that was brilliant, and I can pick a moment that broke me, and they all have stayed with me. It's not like I've forgotten any of them, and I'm sure that's the same with you, and you've run way more than me, but I think you can remember all of these races really vividly, and I think that's why people like you and me are out there doing them, continuing to push ourselves, because they're so good. What's next? What would you like to do next? You've done so many amazing. You've done the bucket list of races. What would you choose to do next?
I would actually love to do the UTA 100-miler course sometime, because it's got the Blackheath, Perry's Look Down, Lockley's Pylon section in it, which is one of the best bits of things you can do to yourself in the Blue Mountains. Other than that, I think at some point I would love to go and do Tour de Gent again properly and spend time with the family in that part of the world. Like Courmayeur is just magic. And then really tough to say what else. I think anything with mountains or extreme conditions in it is pretty intriguing, and I think cold weather racing, something like Alaska in the future, would be really exciting too.
Brilliant. And with Hayley?
Yeah, absolutely. Like fantastic. We adventure together. We're
kids,
so lucky.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be really good.
Hopefully the kids will have adventure as part of their appetite. And
I'm sure they will. They can't avoid it. Yeah, it's going to be there.
Jane's already fun.
If you had a song or a bit of music that was going to be your walkout song, the song that they play when Roger comes onto stage, when Roger's going into the next stage of his life, what would that be?
Well, the funny thing here is I love Gojira. So there's this French, very technical, but absolutely brilliant metal band, Gojira, which is the way that Godzilla sounds when it's pronounced in Japanese. And their music is basically like machine guns versus a tank battle getting crashed into by a helicopter. Just absolutely brilliant. So they've got this great song, The Art of Dying, which is an epic piece in about sort of 4 movements. And it's got Tibetan chanting running through it. It's actually talking about the sensation of life ending is like a mountain sitting on your chest until you let go, and it's an incredible piece of music.
It's been really nice having a chat with you. I've really enjoyed it. We've broken it into 2 parts because we spoke a bit about what life with type 1's been like for you since you got diagnosed in your early adulthood, and what you've done since then has been quite astounding. Like, it's unbelievable. And you talked about people that inspire others, and certainly you're someone that's inspired me to take on things and do challenges that I would never have done. And you've been really generous with your time and your comments, and I really thank you for that. And I'm sure there's people out there listening and watching, if they can see the clips that we've taken, that are going to take something from this and do really well. I'm really looking forward to my run. I've got an area of unknown that I'm going to be stepping into, that one step further. If I do get to the 100-kilometre mark, which I'm pretty sure I will will I get to the 100-mile mark? And that's a really interesting piece for me to think about. So yeah, thanks very much for your time, Roger.
Oh, thank you, Doug. I think Fitter for Having It's a great message. I think when you do get to the 100K, you'll feel nicely warmed up for the next 60. So it won't feel like that big of a challenge.
Yeah,
go do it.
I think so, and it's such an exciting race. Where will it go? And your life, Roger, I can't wait to see where that's going. You know, you've got 2 great kids, you've got a wife, you're settled down, you've got some work priorities at the moment, and you know what I've seen you do with rogerhanney.com looks really interesting as well. That whole space around AI and marketing and building brands. You've got some interesting work you're setting out on. This juggle of life that we all play, when type 1's thrown in there, becomes a little bit harder. But I think, like you said earlier on, we can actually use that to our advantage and make everything else better. So I wish you every success with that. And I've really enjoyed your musical choices as well. It's opened my eyes to different types of music, which I really like.
Oh, thanks, mate. That's great. And, you know, the beauty of having type 1 at any ultra is you're never going to get bored. So have a great time this week anyway.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Really look forward to seeing you again soon. A few days after recording part 2 with Roger, I ran my longest ever run with type 1. I ran for 20 hours non-stop and I ran 134 kilometres. That's 30% further than I'd ever run in one day. It was amazing, but I know I can go further and I will go further. Here are some of the pictures and images, and if you want to hear more about Roger, go and listen to part 1. If you want to know more about Fitter for Having It, check us out online. See you next time.